So if you're telling your team to take better care of themselves, but the workload hasn't changed, the expectations keep rising, and people still don't feel safe to speak up, this is why burnout keeps coming back. So today's conversation is about preventing burnout at the root, not by blaming, but by fixing systems that create chronic stress. Dr. Melanie Gray, PhD, RN, a trauma informed care and wellness strategist with decades of experience in nursing leadership and education, and the host of the podcast Code Calm, is here. That is a mouthful. And she is here to talk to us exactly about that topic. So she helps leaders and organizations recognize the invisible injuries driving burnout. And so today you're going to learn why burnout is often a system failure, the real difference between burnout, moral injury, and I'm just tired, and a simple 3-step culture scan you can use with your team to start creating that emotional safety right now. So it's so good to have you here. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you today, Lisa?
Yeah, good. Just getting into the swing of things. New year, new everything. That's what the society tells us anyway, right?
Yes, it's supposed to be a fresh start. And really, Lisa, it can be a fresh start, but it's all up to us.
It is. It is. I love the topic that we're talking about today. So we're talking about burnout, and I think a lot of the world is literally burnt out right now.
Well, they
So
are.
when people hear that word, most people think I'm just tired. What is really going on?
Well, what's really happening is their nervous system is on fire. That's in its most simplistic terms. When you are stressed, your cortisol levels go up, your body, your hormones are firing, and they don't stop.
Mhm.
And your parasympathetic system doesn't have which is your rest, which is, triggers your body to rest, doesn't ever have a chance to kick in. You don't get that time of restoration. Your body is like always on the go. It's like overworking a muscle, but you're overworking your hormones and your neural system, your regulatory system. And the good news, the bad news is we celebrate exhaustion in this country.
We do.
We
It's like
we,
you
we
stayed up
don't
all night working. Good for you. You're amazing.
Oh yeah, and then we compete. Well, if you stayed up one night, well, I only had 10 hours of sleep over 3 days. I mean, why are we having these conversations?
Yeah.
When really we can have a choice. Burnout is a choice because self-care is a choice. So you can choose to exhibit behaviors that have you feeling exhausted, tired, muscle aches, body aches, bloating, bad gut, weight gain, irritability, lack of sleep, or you could choose to have a lifestyle that in which you rest, in which you exercise, in which you enjoy your family, in which you put boundaries on your work. Because we're whole people with multiple gifts and talents. There's more in us than work. Now, my mantra is my belief, Lisa. I'm not judging anyone, but I believe that we work to live. We shouldn't be living to work. I mean, and people are living so long now that you might work for 40 years, but you could be retired for another 25 to 30 years. I mean, people are living longer, right? And so what do you want that to look like? You have to look at look at life from a longitudinal perspective and consider what kind of legacy do I want to leave to my friends, family, and then what do I want to reflect on and say was my win in life when I choose to pivot or life pivots me?
hmm Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we're seeing a big shift in the world right now. There's less jobs, and people are losing their jobs. And the people that have invested their whole life in their career are finding themselves, they don't even know who they are. And so they're like, they don't have this job anymore that they thought defined them. and now they have no clue who they are, what to do with themselves. And they're really anxious and scared and depressed. And because that's what they related themselves to.
Yeah, we drank the juice. I drank all the juice, Lisa. I
Yeah.
worked hard. I went to school. I got the degrees. I mean, I did all the things. Now, I went through 5 mergers in my career. And
Wow.
in the last merger, they determined that they didn't need my role anymore. Um, and so that's when I began to decide I would work for myself. However, I could see the handwriting on the wall around merger 3. And I said to myself, I need to have a plan. And
Yeah.
it is important. And so because I had a plan, I think I landed pretty well. Because there isn't, but I'll be honest with you, Lisa. I was, I had meetings, I had a title, I'm a leader, my calendar's full. People want to talk to me up until the day they don't. And then they turn you off. And then
Right.
I realized that the day I was turned off, didn't have my corporate email, I didn't have the calendar. I even though I've been through this a number of times, I'll be honest, I had a plan. I had to recalibrate for about 3 weeks. I think I watched the Hallmark channel for 3 weeks. And I had to recalibrate. But I did have a plan, and then I got up. But it is important because the security that maybe our parents or grandparents had on 40 hours a week for 40 years with the same company, it's not that situation anymore.
No.
You know,
Oh my
it's
God.
not.
It is
It's
not at
not.
all.
Mm-mm. Some literature says that the younger upcoming generations are going to change jobs up to 15 times, and they're going to change careers 5 to 7 times because some of the jobs that they may do don't exist yet, and there's so much change. So I think that is a little bit of a big lift. But I think if we plan for it and we're aware of it, we can go through that transition much easier.
Yeah, I think uncertainty is one of the things that causes people to feel dysregulation. A lot of people don't like to feel uncertain. In fact, most people don't like to feel uncertain. And we as humans like to see everything as linear, and we want to know what's going to happen 10 years from now. But that's just not the case, and it's not realistic.
Well, it isn't now. I mean, the world is changing. And we do have to change with it. We do have to be lifelong learners. But if you remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? At the bottom, we need to feel safe. The most important thing is to feel safe and have your basic biological needs met. And when those feel threatened, and I think for many people right now, they do. Can I keep my house? Am I going to have my job? How am I going to feed my family? But that's why the fact that we can be in community as the advisor, you're helping people find balance, right? So how do
Mhm.
we live in community and find balance with the new way environment that we are living in? But so there's hope. I think it's important for people to have hope that yes, we are in challenging times. We are pressed with more, but we can cultivate a life that is successful by doing simple things. Why burn out to try to make more money, for example, when you really could relook at your life and bring your living down to a level that's more comfortable so you don't have as much stress? Do you need 2 cars? My husband and I have two right now, but we keep our cars forever, right? And when the next one dies, we're probably going to stay at one because I'm like driving Miss Daisy now sometimes because I can do so much from home.
Yes, totally. No, totally. We don't need all of these things, right? We don't.
We don't necessarily. We used to go out to eat. quite often. But now it's cheaper to stay home. You really have to have a reason to get me out to dinner now.
Mm,
And because I'd rather save that cost. We used to go out, my husband date night every Friday night, Lisa, for like $50. But now
yeah,
it's
yeah,
double. I'm like, no, I don't need to go out that much.
yeah. Everything is so expensive. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
So when we
Can we?
make these changes, when we look at the reality of our lives and look at what we really need, we can make some adjustments so that we're not so pressured and burned out.
Yeah, definitely. And we have to make those choices consciously. Like we have to start becoming aware instead of just continuously pushing all this underneath the infamous rug and not understanding it and just ignoring it. Sometimes the unknown is scary until we look at it and then we start making those conscious decisions, then we gain control and then that helps us regulate and feel better.
Yes, and as a one thing I will always remember is that during the COVID pandemic, how many people were one check away from disaster? And I think, though it's been 5 years ago, we should have learned, we should be more uh, consistent and dedicated to saving and living with less because so that we're prepared for the next thing that could happen.
Mm.
And I think that when you prepare and you plan and you put yourself in control, you put that nest egg aside, it does reduce your burnout. Because I'm a nurse, but if the world was such that if I had to work to make a minimum wage job, I could live on a minimum wage if I had to. Right? I mean, that's where we have to place ourselves, I think, to help reduce the pressure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, can we talk about these different terms? So, there's burnout, moral injury, and exhaustion. What
Mm-hmm.
are those terms? Can you break them down for us?
So, moral injury is the psychological, social, spiritual pain or distress that comes when we're exposed to events that really don't jive with our moral beliefs. We feel betrayed. So, for example, on your job, when you see things happening, people not being treated fairly, you're ignored over this someone who's always speaking up first. It's not that your ideas aren't good, you just aren't recognized. It's seeing a coworker maybe not have to follow the rules, but everyone else is expected to. Or it's working in healthcare. You see parents struggling with their kids and the system not being able to provide them with the medication and support that they need. And that can build up in your body psychologically and emotionally and result in that moral injury. You're wondering, I feel psychologically, emotionally sad, and I'm really struggling with what I'm seeing, and uh how do I balance that emotion to be able to continue to go on and do the work that I'm doing? Then you have burnout, which is the ongoing firing of your of your neurological and hormonal system, where you're all through stress, your body just doesn't let go. You are retaining that stress in your and it shows up in the physiological symptoms of back pain, neck pains, gut pain, bloating, weight gain, along with I feel anxious, I feel tired, I don't feel motivated anymore. I just don't know what to do with myself. And then the other point you want me to bring up was we talked about moral injury and burnout.
And exhaustion. How to tell the difference?
Exhaustion. Yeah. So exhaustion, you're just physically tired. It's another physical sign and symptom of really being burned out, both physically and emotionally. How do you know? You scan yourself. You have to pause. I think sometimes we just push through. I'm gonna push through another day. I'm gonna push through another day. When
Yeah.
really we need to pause and rest. Listen to ourselves. I think often we ignore our bodies. We're accustomed to ignoring ourselves and pushing through. And it could be because we were taught to do that. I was taught to suck it up, quite honestly.
Me
My
too.
my parents
Me too.
were, yeah, my parents taught me to suck it up. You know, just show up and suck it up. You can do it later. You can rest later. But that isn't necessarily going to work in today's society. My parents were able to go to work and come home. There wasn't anyone trying to reach them from 4:30 to the next day until they showed up, right? They didn't have email. People didn't have access to you through email and text messaging. And so the fact that our jobs have access to us 24/7 means that we have to put boundaries on those activities for ourselves so that we give ourselves the time to relax, to recover. Right, an athlete, you want to be good at your job, right? You want to be good at what you do, and we admire athletes. We say, "Oh, look at Aaron Rodgers. Oh, look at these athletes. They can do all this. They're getting up on the Olympics for the winter. They didn't get that good because they didn't have recovery. Yes, they worked hard, but they also had recovery after those workouts, right? So that the exercise could have a good effect. The same thing is true with our jobs, with life. We can work hard, but our bodies need us to have time to recover. And we have to give it that if we want to go the distance, because burnout, Lisa, is a choice. Exhaustion is a choice that you don't have to say yes to.
Yeah. I think boundaries for me was the hardest thing to start developing because I would see the to-do list growing. My emails are dinging and I'm at home, and I'm not really doing anything. So I'm like, why not respond to these? Why not check a few things off? But then that like causes me to not be in that relaxed mode. And then having to say no, like I had a really hard time with that. Do you have any tips for people who are just learning how to set boundaries?
Well, absolutely. You remember that everyone becomes a teacher when you need to set boundaries because you're teaching people how to treat you. You're teaching your organization how to treat you. You're teaching your team how to treat you, and you're teaching them how to treat and engage with other team members. Because when it comes to our work, we are creating culture. In our work environments, we're creating culture. And so
Mm,
it's important that you teach people how to treat you. I don't answer email after 4 o'clock because I can clear out what I can clear out. And if you email me about something at 2 o'clock on Friday, if you don't send it by 2, you're not going to get a response until Monday because it wasn't urgent. Of course, we have to balance urgent situations, but overall, you have to set the boundaries because you do have a right to live. And your whole people, Lisa, I don't know what other things you do, if you sing, if you dance, if you ice skate, if you paint, but there are other gifts and talents that you have, right?
yeah, absolutely.
And you don't just want to be known for what you're doing, the great work that you're doing on the advisor is great work, but there's more to you than that great work, right? You're a whole person, and all of it needs to be celebrated. But it
Yeah.
won't if you don't.
Right. I mean, I quite often see people out and about. Like I attend classes and I was skating the other day actually, and I saw people on their phone returning emails and I think it's just becoming part of the norm. But I think like you said, we have to start setting those boundaries and sticking to them. Because then we're not present in these other beautiful things that we have the opportunity to do.
And what are you gonna? There's this fear of missing out. I think that's why people do it because of FOMO. Oh, if I'm missing out, and they were competing with someone else. Well, Sally responded, but who are you? You have to know who you are, and you cannot benchmark yourself against people on social media.
Mhm.
You are a unique person with unique DNA, and you should embrace your uniqueness, own it, and set your own standard so that you're not burning out, you're not pressuring yourself, that you have confidence in the beautiful you.
Yeah, there's burnout when you're not being who you are. And so, for example, I see people all the time who do things because they think it'll look really good as a photo op for social media. It's like they show up to do something. They're not involved with it at all, but they're just taking photos and making it look like they're doing yoga or like something like that because it seems like the right thing to do so they can look a certain way. Like there's burnout in that we're not being authentic.
Oh, I
When we're
love
not
that.
authentic and when we don't have integrity, those two things cause severe dysregulation in the body.
Well, they do. And we should want to be authentic. We should have confidence in and embrace our uniqueness. No two we I think God created us all with unique DNA for a reason because we're not all the same. And there are a lot of smart people and we're all smart differently. But we have to, I believe, we'll find better peace and not move to burnout and stress if we accept who we are and work with it, you know, and celebrate and put limits on what we want and what we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. So you use the phrase quiet harm. What is quiet harm?
Well, quiet harm is when we are holding everything in and we're being stressed, we're unhappy, we feel stressed, we feel anxious, and we're not doing anything about it because that is harmful because ongoing stress leads long term could lead to having a stroke, hypertension, a reduced immune system. Stress has been proven to lead to heart attacks, even cancers. They believe some cancers are believed to result because of stress. So if there's a quiet harm that could be going on that we are cooperating with if we do not take care of ourselves and find the time to rest, to make rest renewal and have fun. Have fun, laugh, find joy in our lives so that we're completely whole and healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. What about emotional safety? How important is emotional safety and what does that mean?
Emotional safety. So, in a workplace, in the work environment, emotional safe environment is one in which everyone feels safe in expressing their thoughts, their ideas, contributing to the team and the work without side sarcastic comments. You've probably seen those people. Oh, that's Sally. Oh, that's Jim. You have an environment where you're safe to contribute and bring who you are authentically, and you're valued. A safe emotional environment for uh in life is being around people that build you and are not just draining, taking from you, but it's a collaborative friendships, collaborative relationships where you feel safe and you feel where you can build up and where you can have honest conversations. Sometimes our family is not, and I bring that up because many people struggle, I have found, because their families aren't safe.
Right.
And it's a hard reality to come to, but sometimes emotional safety where you are not feel threatened, where you don't feel threatened, where you don't feel demeaned, there's not always is your family's not always a safe place for that. And so you've got to find a safe place. Sometimes your family is not your blood.
Yeah, I agree. And those are the people that I find that immerse themselves more in work. And they're the ones that are at the office super late because they don't feel safe to go home and they're not going to be regulated there.
But I encourage them. There's so many great people in the world that if you make an effort to try different groups, try meetup groups, try a faith community, um, you don't always like everything you try. But if you keep trying, you will find the right fit for you. And don't give
Mhm.
up.
Yeah, for sure. So, what about teams at the office? What is a small systems change that could lead to big impact when it comes to regulation and emotional safety?
Well, leaders saying to their teams, "Hey, everyone, being this is what I know happened in our community today. If there was a fire, if there was an incident, do any of you have anyone that was involved? How can we encourage you? Do you need extra time and compassion today? Hey, everyone, we have a new onboarding of a new software. I know it's going to add to your workload. Let's talk about how we can make this a smooth transition." I think it's important for leaders to acknowledge that life is happening and that people, if someone has lost a spouse, hey, everyone, Sally is out today. She lost her husband. Let's show her can we send some cards? Or I know we missed her today. Let's, be supportive. I think we have to acknowledge that life didn't end when people come into work. They're still carrying it, that situations happen in our communities and situations happen in our work environment. But if we acknowledge it and acknowledge the impact on the people, they won't feel alone and they'll feel supported and they'll be better able to support each other. So we can't live in a bubble.
Yeah,
Acknowledge life.
I remember working in corporate world and like if someone's crying in the office, it like everyone would shut down. Like the leaders would shut down, and then it would make it seem like it was wrong. And then that person would be sent home and they would be like secretively, like it was almost like they were snuck out. And that created such a weird feeling for me. Because it was like, oh my God, so I can't cry in the office? Like crying is wrong. It's like I have to be, it felt like I had to be this strong, stoic, nothing is going to rattle me to be successful when I was in the corporate world. And that
Mhm.
felt so odd. It
Well,
was
that's where
stressful.
trauma, yeah, that's why being trauma informed. I am a subject matter expert around trauma informed care, and I help organizations create cultures of safety and
Mm,
emotional safety in which, and trauma informed care means that we all understand that everyone has had some type of adverse experience in childhood experience or adverse experience in their life, and we treat them with compassion. So with your example, if someone is crying, we consider what has happened to them, not what is wrong with them. Like why is she doing that? But we consider what has happened, not what is wrong. Understanding that over 60%, it's estimated that over 60% of all Americans have had at least one adverse childhood experience. So everywhere you go, even particularly at work, there's somebody in the room who has had some type of trauma. And it isn't that it's uh has made them unable to be efficient, but they have triggers.
mhm.
And we want to be
Yeah,
sensitive to that and compassionate.
yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it comes up without us. I mean, we can't plan for it. It doesn't. If we could plan for that, we'd plan to do it at night at home by ourselves for the most part.
Hmm. But we all
Yeah.
have them. So we want to be compassionate and kind to people. And that helps with engagement. It helps with retention. It just makes it nicer to come to work.
Hmm. So let's talk about using data like absenteeism, turnover, and complaints. So you talk about using these things as signals and not shame. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So data is not bad. Everywhere we go, there's being data collected, and it helps collect the truth, right? It's considered objective truth. If we're going to have good environments, positive environments, we cannot ignore the truth. So if you are seeing trends in your data around engagement is decreasing, we don't have to handle it with shame. We might have to ask why. It could be that someone as simple as you lost a strong person. And how do
Mhm.
that in a particular area, and how do we lift the team until you can replace that strength? it doesn't have to be that you're not a good leader. It could be that something else subtle in terms of the maybe we're onboarding too much software. Maybe we didn't get people aren't doing well on a certain training or onboarding. Didn't have a good mentor, the appropriate mentor. So we cannot be ashamed. It's not personal. Leaders cannot take everything personally, but they can use the data to have a conversation with their team to get to a higher level of understanding and truth, because teamwork makes the dream work. We don't lead in isolation. And data helps us put the information together quickly, concisely, so that we can use it and we can help better serve.
So you created a simple 3-step culture scan. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, just reset. One, you're going to realize that you are in a situation where you could be dysregulated. And you're going to take a deep breath. You're going to slow yourself down, and you're going to then exercise a choice in terms of your reaction. Is this an emergency or is it not? Who do I need to bring in to problem solve this together? You have to make that decision. And then you have to be willing to sit down, listen, and make a solid decision that is going to transform the situation and continue to keep your team together.
Right,
So
right.
we
Yeah,
react too quickly sometimes. We just move too fast.
we do. We do. And like I've made that mistake where I've sent the angry email in the heat of the moment and then regretted it like seconds after sending it. If I'd have just taken a second or even the day to think about it, like the next day, it wasn't even on my radar. It was like something triggered me in that moment. And you can't take stuff like that back. And then I allowed my system to become like vibrating. I was vibrating. Learning how to take that second is so important.
Well, it is. And things are coming at us all the time, but everything is not urgent. It's
Yeah.
not. And so being able to pause, to breathe, to give yourself that, because many things may have happened in your day in that situation that brought you to that point of frustration that had nothing to do with that email, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we misplace our emotions. And then we have misplaced and dysregulated actions. And I have seen them be career threatening, and I can have seen them be career limiting, and I have seen them be career ending. And you don't want your career limited, ended at all, right? Because you just sent an angry email, because you never know.
Yeah. You never know. It's right. What about this? Now that the world is shifting and it's becoming more regulated, so for leaders to talk about their emotions, how much should a leader be sharing their personal experiences and emotions with their team? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's up to the leader, how much. Really, you can keep your communication to the job if you choose, but you can say, this, I know this is hard. My leader is expecting this of me. I'm bringing this change to you because my leader is expecting this of me, and their leader is expecting this of them. Sometimes our teams that we oversee or that we work with don't understand that everybody has a boss, right?
Mm,
I think it's important to help them understand that structure, and that if you're asking for a change or a new process, or we have to increase our sales, is not solely personal to you. And I think sharing that this is what's expected of me, and you can share as much emotion as you want, but you could be, being correct, being careful about it. If you want to share, if you have moments in your environment where hey, let's have pictures of our kids' day. It's the beginning of school. You want to put up pictures of your kids, or how many of them are mini-me's, let's, have
Mhm.
and you want to do something like that everyone is doing, then it's a natural sharing that you're doing, and you're creating that environment of caring. So I think it really depends on the environment. It depends on the person, and to be aware that your team, it might take, if they've not seen this before, it might take them a while to wonder, is this real? Can I trust this person? So as trust is built, people share more.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. You have to build trust and by action. One thing is to say something, but if you're not speaking what you're saying and saying what you're speaking, then people aren't going to trust you.
No, you have to have trust and
Yeah.
authenticity.
Yes, absolutely. So, for anyone out there who's listening and they want to start regulating and feeling better and addressing their burnout, what is one or two or three things that they can do to start feeling better?
Well, my framework, my happy thing is stop it, because I've told you, we started this conversation that burnout is a choice, right? I think it is. So you can choose to stop it. You can scan, really look at your life, look at your responses, listen to your body, what's happening. And then you can uh tell yourself the truth. This isn't good. I feel like crap. I don't like being bloated all the time. And then you can, own the truth and own the decision to change. Own it. And then you can prioritize yourself. You own it, and then prioritize every activity that you need to do to begin to set boundaries and change. And then you have to, be intentional. You can have the priority, but that means you have to be intentional. Put it on your calendar, get an accountability partner. And then you have to be excited about the transformation. Be excited about the outcome, because you can stop it, and burnout is a choice.
I love that. Man, I wish I would have known that years ago. I used to have these limiting beliefs, and I think a lot of people who are high achievers have the belief that if they don't work hard and they're not valued and they're not pushing, that they're not worthy or worth something. And so I would always like overwork, and it was my choice to take on a new project. And
Hmm.
the more I did, the more I was doing and the less I felt in control. And but people were recognizing me as being like a really powerful at my job. And I found that almost addictive, but it was literally killing me.
Yeah, and the thing is, there are seasons. I've had seasons, Lisa, when I've been I've been the girl, just like you, and then there's a new administration, a new leader, and then I'm out. And so
Yeah.
then then what do you do? It doesn't mean that I'm less. It just means that things change, people change. Some people you connect well with, and some you don't. And the reality is, you can work hard, but the hardest worker doesn't always get the promotion. And
Yeah.
working hard is not a guarantee, because there are a lot of smart people. It's about, to some degree, it's relationship, to some degree, it's skill set. There are a lot of uh ingredients in the recipe of promotion and titles, and it doesn't define you. I don't let those things define me. And I encourage the listeners not to let titles define them, that they decide how great they are, because you can't, that's what you can control.
Hmm. For sure. For sure. So if organizations address burnout at the root, what do you see would change culturally and humanly?
I think if they would address burnout at the root, that they would see greater retention, they would see greater engagement, they would see their bottom line actually improve, because people support what they help to create, and when they feel comfortable in the environment, they create better.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Everyone would be more involved, more wanting to be there, less walking on eggshells.
Less walking on eggshells, less time scrolling on their phone looking for something else. It's creating a culture of growth. and success. And success is not defined by money and title, as I've repeated. It's about each listener creating a life for themselves in which they're happy and content. So when they come to work and show up, they can leave and go home and be happy and have their home, their family, their any other thing that they want to do in a manner that suits them.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. Where can people learn more about your work?
Dr. Melanie Gray, theconfidencecoach.com.
And can you tell us a little bit more about your work?
Yes, I help organizations create cultures of wellness that are trauma informed, and I help individuals work through issues personally with burnout, stress, and with women hormone going through menopause and hormonal regulation.
Amazing. That is amazing work. Do you have any last minute thoughts on the topic today?
My last minute thought is to tell everyone that you are a gift. And you are a gift that deserves to be well cared for. So take the time to take care of yourself, to set boundaries, to eat well, to rest well, to really look at your life and define for yourself what what the legacy is that you want to give, not only to your family, but to the world. What is the impact you want to make? Because you are a gift and you can do it.
I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, what a beautiful conversation. And to our audience, burnout is a choice. Listen to Dr. Melanie. Take those first steps, take your power back, and stop attaching to those things that don't really mean anything. Until next time, take care, everybody.